substantial interest. You get that degree, and you probably will not be able to get a job in your field. If you get a job, it's probably not going to be at a salary because you have thousands of people who have all kinds of degrees as we do, unemployed, and you have to compete with them. And that complicates matters. But yet we are academics, and we want to stay employed and so forth and so on. So what do we do? Go ahead.
Thank you. I was also going to kind of chime in what Diane said. And I think what's happening is the changes that are directly affecting higher ed right now, there seems to be a much larger push for certificates, certification, or fast tracking for people. And that seems to be in vogue right now. In fact, I know that Novers is trying to do that in many of the courses, where someone has a degree, say a master's degree, and they'll get an add-on certificate, possibly 18 hours as well. So I think that is something that is changing a little bit. When I was going through college and getting my master's and doctorate degree, I really didn't hear too much about certificates at all. Everything was in a degree program, a formalized program. So I think in that sense it is changing today.
I have a question on that. If we're talking about the demise of the more tenured and the older, more mature, on the job for a long time type of professor, that they're moving off and the young ones are coming in or whatever, postdocs and so forth. Isn't there also a question about quality as you look at like what society is demanding? Somebody talked about, you know, meeting the supply and demand and that sort of thing. What do you think if the older tenured professor is gone or they're moving off the scene? How do people feel about, like, say, even teaching courses that certify? It almost seems like it's bringing the level of the university
you mean
down.
The reputation down?
Yeah, the reputation, all of this good stuff. Because if I'm a full-time professor and I'm a tenure or my contract or whatever, I really don't want to be teaching a certification class. You know.
Well, it depends on how the class is structured, because the certification could merely be that you take 18 credits out of special ed, doctoral program, or ed leaders, or whatever it is. Because I think that's part of what we need to be looking at as we try to attract students to higher ed. I'll speak for special education. We're revamping the entire program to make it almost completely menu driven. Because people come to us who have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree in the field, and we're making them, it's almost like they're taking, okay, it's supposed to be elevated, a higher level of learning, but we're not valuing what they already know.
But let me be the devil's advocate and deal with history a little bit, then bring it back up. I began my career at Florida International University. I was there for 10 years. And at that time, Nova University was beginning to evolve and distance education. And FIU was like many traditional institutions throughout the United States. We thumped our nose at distance education. We said it's a paper mill, correspondence school, et cetera, et cetera. And there was no way that we were going to touch that because we did not see that as high quality, high standard. We were not going to lower our standards and mess up our image. Fast forward to the liberal arts versus the profession, vocation, and technical. Community colleges have a history of creating those vocation and technical. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, etc. That is what they do. That's why they have the AS degree, Associate Arts degree, and the AA degree and the AS degree. AS degree is 2 years, and you go to work. AA degrees, you get that, and you go into a 4-year upper division. So we still have professors at 4-year graduate school, etc., that they'll thump their nose at. How dare you want me to do that low-level vocation stuff? I remember as and the African American attended Tuskegee Institute, historically black college universities, when they had the Morrill Act that came about that gave, when you look at Florida A&M universities, Florida Agriculture and Mechanical, when you look at North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Agriculture Technical School, agriculture and carpentry, masonry, and mechanical work. And then the Morrill Act provided millions of dollars. That's how you got these HBCUs out there brought in lot. And then you had the debate between Booker T. Washington, President Tuskegee, and W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois focused on the liberal arts, the intellectuals. And what did Tuskegee's president focus on? Vocational. 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 And that was that big argument. So today we come full circle. And we still are not able to sit at the table and reconcile that without having some feelings. That is that going to lower my standards? Is it going to decrease the quality? Is it going to devalue the image that we are? We are professors. This is the academy. How dare you challenge our candidate? I'm just being the devil's advocate. Go ahead.
To me, saying, you know, what is that all about? And that also goes, and I haven't heard from you, Judy, yet, back to the focus on the article that you sent out. If there is all this change and this transition that's going on, what directions should we just be considering as we start to address what we see as trends in higher education? Judy.
There is a national conversation that is beginning because of the focus on the reauthorization of the No Child Left Behind, or ESEA. And the groups that have really jumped in to this happens to be charter school educators who are looking at how do you bring faculty up to the excellence in performance. And many of them don't have the funds to go and get the master's degrees. Usually they are early in their career, between year 0 and 5. And they are looking at alternative ways for them to build capacity as well as get these advanced degrees. And so what they're doing in New York, the Board of Regents has authorized an alternative to going to a college or a university per se. They're following an academic track that would be much like the university, which they've created within their system. And so they use this team approach, that they hire professors to come in and do professional development with these teachers. And after a year of participating in the program, they begin offering courses that would lead to getting a master's degree, and they're developing partnerships with universities. But this is all happening either on from elementary through high school. Actually, they're elementary middle now, and will move into high school. But it's happening on the school campus rather than the university campus. And so they come out with these, these master's degrees, and sometimes while they're looking at beginning, they said beginning to 12 to 13, they will begin looking at specific certifications in reading, in math, those kinds of things. But now it's kind of a generalist focus, so how you build capacity through professional development, ultimately leading toward a master's degree, which meets the need for these people who don't have the funds to actually enroll, or the time, they say, to enroll. And so they build their own as opposed to having them enrolled in a university program.
Well, let me share with you the competitor that all of us individually and collectively need to keep our eye on. We have the non-profit, public, and private colleges and universities. But our greatest competitor is the for-profit colleges and universities. Within 24 hours, they can create what's necessary to accommodate the vocation and technical needs of the employee within 24 hours. And you can ride throughout this region. In 15 minutes, you probably see 3 or 4 for-profit colleges and universities. And their students qualify for federal financial aid. And the accreditation, you know, they got multi-million-dollar lobbies like the others. And it's a multi-billion-dollar business on the stock market. And they are doing it. So we always have to keep our eye on that competition because it is out there and it's becoming stronger and stronger. And so it is a challenge that we have to deal with all of these reservations and skepticism and whatever, but we also have to deal with reality of continued employment.
I'd like to share a quote.
Go ahead.
This is the thing, and it comes from the Chronicle of Higher Education. Much can be learned from Teaching You. That's what the program that started at Hunter College, that's now evolving into this Remaining Schools. Much can be learned from Teacher You. In recent decades, scores of men and women have founded nonprofit organizations dedicated to helping disadvantaged elementary and secondary students in a variety of ways, like designing new schools and recruiting the best and brightest into the classroom, or developing new models of leadership, professional development, and instruction. There is nothing comparable in higher education.
Sorry, I was going to say, you know, higher education, as we know, has long been a very slow-moving ship, in the sense that things change very slowly because of the nature of the structure of the organization itself. There's levels of decision-making, there's people coming and going, and so forth and so on, whereas the for-profits, you know, have, you know, sort of mastered the art of decision-making. And I think the question that really comes up with that is that the for-profits, while they may be nimble in effecting, you know, rapid decisions, questions related to quality programs come up too with regard to the fast turnaround they have. So that's one issue that's a school of thought. In the traditional higher ed, there's the slowness of it all too, but the quality of the end product typically is considered better. So that's one piece. And I've been sort of following this a little bit, and I always argue I think both types of schools can learn something from each other too. And I think that, you know, we need to look at the restructuring of you know, the traditional higher education, because the reality around us is that people, the population of students that we will serve, are not going to sit around and wait, you know, and we have not been flexible enough to meet their needs, and especially with adult learners and students who are commuting, and most of the students in the country commute to school, and so there's a lot of other issues in addition to just the quality of the program and how well are you providing that educational experience for students.
And this again came up, this relay School of Education in New York State came up because groups of charter schools such as KIPP, which is Knowledge is Power program, and other charter school entities did not feel that conventional, traditional schools of education were educating their teachers with the content they wanted, with the practical work they wanted, and so they put together this program. And the reason I sent it to Dr. Smiley is that this program now is bypassing. Now it is working in conjunction with other universities, but it is being run out of the Board of Regents of the state of New York. And the courses are being certified through just directly the state of New York. We also know that Academico, which is a charter school group, has been talking about doing their own university and educating their teachers. We know that High Tech Academy in California San Diego has its own master's program educating. So what I see this is a big encroachment on the traditional programs that we have made our money on.
And
I'm worried about this, and I'm just saying I think we need to look at this.
I'm sure you're aware, Florida DOA just issued recently an RFP to create exactly this kind of a thing. It's school-based in collaboration with
Yeah, I'm just, this is a
Oh,
big.
private universities are not going to go away.
No,
They fill a need. But I would ask us all, when was the last time a really new idea was discovered by or generated or promoted by a private university? When was the last time you heard a professor from a private university make a controversial claim about something that's important? When was the last time you heard of a private university fostering a controversial issue that didn't directly relate to the financial stability of that private for-profit institution? I can't think of any. Maybe they're there, but you just don't think of Kaplan or Capella or Phoenix as being an academic partner. You think about them as providing degrees at a cost and a convenience. And so the argument is an important one, but it doesn't seem to ring true to what at least a lot of us think higher education is supposed to be.
Susan?
I just wanted to share, kind of summing up what Charlene had mentioned about us looking at it globally and hearing what Dolores mentioned about professors now having to teach certification. And I don't see them as mutually exclusive, and I don't see it as something that would be demeaning or looking down on the professors. Where I was from at school back in Europe, and especially in the UK, for instance, we know they have a high academic standard. And one of the things they did, especially in universities, and these are some of the universities that were rated really highly, where they managed to marry both the theory and the practice. So even though you're there and you're getting your degree, it was impressed on us that everybody's coming out with a degree. So get a certification to go with that. So in my case, I've always been in HR. And even at a bachelor's level, you're coming out, you've done your degree, and you've done your 4-year degree, but you are encouraged and also to do your certification. And the certification always came with hands-on practical experience. So when you're coming out and you're going into the work world, they know you're coming out with some practical. So it's not just about theory, but it's about practice as well. And this certification also proves to that. Right now here, I'm part of the conflict resolution team. And one of the things we've been working on for the past 2 or 3 years is to try and get certification together for the people in the OL, the EDD, get some certification in terms of conflict resolution, because it's out there and it's needed. And somebody had mentioned it's probably just ensuring that they cover that 18 credit hours that are needed. But we also want to include a practical element to it, where we have them sitting down, going through mediation practices, going through, getting some experience with the whole arbitration thing, that kind of thing. So they have the practical experience that they can then marry with the theory. And you come out much more wholesome. Again, it sets that student apart once they get out and go into the business world. And it also speaks to the integrity of that institution and the people that are coming for them. So I see that it's something that we as instructors, as professors, whatever we call ourselves, that we should probably embrace and take on, because it speaks to the institution. It also speaks to us and where we want to see these students go and leverage them. That's my thing.
This is exactly what Mike is saying. We can't ignore the fact that the top students academically, those who get everything right on the college boards, those who are doing everything that they should, or have all the grades, or just have done, they are still going to quote top universities. And that is so in terms of, is education going down? In some areas, yes, in terms of, but the bottom line is these students are still competing with everything they have, videos, you name it, parents, who they know, to get into the Harvard, get into the Yale, get into the, quote, University of Pennsylvania, coming out of, some of them come out of top private high schools. This is where they're all going. So it really, sometimes it seems doom and gloom because so much is based on finances and what people can afford. But as I look at what's really going on, these top geniuses or top students are still looking for what is considered top-notch education. That has not stopped.
Well, may I make a suggestion? We got about 3 or 4 minutes left here, and there's a lot that's been discussed out there today. And I like to sort of go around the table and just hear from everyone at about 10 to 15 seconds as to what you're seeing, you know, out of all of this. What do you see that's really affecting either that or, you know, that ties in with the trends today affecting higher education? Or maybe a suggestion as to, I've taken into account what I see happening out there. I would suggest that, you know, maybe Fisher could look at this in accordance to the higher skills, I mean the higher education trends. So about 15 seconds around the table just to share.
Well, I think the one thing I wanted to mention before was with adjunct professors too. I think we can look at it as half full or half empty. I think we need to respond to the challenge and the opportunity. And adjuncts bring, while they may not be full-time members of the community, they bring a real-world, real-time perspective to the classroom that maybe tenured faculty who have been out of the world for a long time maybe not don't have. So that's a plus, I think, right there.
Mike?
I like the statement on page 6 here where he says, the stereotype of the lazy academic is like that of the welfare queen, a politically useful minister. I think that's it.
That's a good one.
Good stuff.
I just think when I started here, we had about 2 or 3 administrators. The rest were all adjuncts. We've moved a long way since then.
Mickey?
I want to repeat that I think we need to pay more attention, not see ourselves as separate from the K-12 world, and pay attention to what's happening with that population, and also become more flexible. I see us becoming more traditional in our programming rather than flexible and responsive to trends.
I see that the cost of education is getting to the point where it's really starting to divide the economic and the social groups more and more. It's just becoming prohibitive. I'll use Nova as an example. What's the cost of a doctoral credit now?
$700.
Unpublished.
Okay.
Unpublished. I'm saying that.
Oh, is that with fees?
Students don't know it yet. They're registering for the fall, but they don't know who's working.
Go ahead.
I think that productivity is going to be a key in terms of recruitment and sustainability.
Judy?
Ron, did you finish?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was trying to get the cost.
I just wanted to say, Diane, what you're saying is, what I fear is that those who can afford the Ivy League college education is just going to stratify society more and more and not have an educated electorate, and that really worries me.
And I think that the educational climate is really changing, and we have to really be aware of those students who we are recruiting, and as trainers have to look at that. And the world has so much uncertainty now. And when you mention sustainability, that's one of those areas now that we're looking at, you know, society, economics, climate, what's going on. So we have to address all that, and if it's with certificates, because those students don't have time or they want to be educated quickly and the needs are faster on demand, then we have to be aware of all that and kind of try to look to meet all those different types of needs as educators.
Politics is very critical. And in some instances, there seems to be a gap between people that are making the rules and those that can the impact of it. And we just can't ignore that. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I think there's also need to really be put in the question of the gap starts.
And I think another gap is the age gap. That is younger people coming into not just higher ed, but into every sector of the society. Let's be quite frankly, while Dr. Smiley said they were not in it for the money, certainly people came into education for job security. And when you do the numbers over the years, not exactly volunteer work. So, you know, I think that's always been a very uncomfortable kind of feeling for me, because people do quite well in this industry if they stay there long enough. It's a comfortable place to be for many people. So my hope is that the age, you know, that the people at this end of the age spectrum kind of listen up to what's coming and push it in a little bit more.
I think the students that come to us, the reason why they come is not just to get a degree, but most of them is because they're looking for some sort of sense of purpose. They don't know where to go. They just know that by getting another degree, they can, other doors might be open. And I've seen numerous students coming back to school that after getting a degree, they have a life experience, like in business in different countries. And at the end, they have a sense of emptiness because they were just making money. So somehow or other, they come back and look for something that is really fulfilling to them. And now they're looking for something that makes sense for them to do, not just to make money. And they think that they need another degree that may help them to see other opportunities that in this moment they don't see. But along they go through the studies and the opportunity to interact with other people and reach their experiences, they start thinking in options that they had no idea before. And not just like being a school principal or a principal, it's the goal. There are enormous opportunities for them to come up with projects to help in many ways in different areas, not just education.
Lisa?
Certainly a lot of factors, I think, that lead up to, you know, some of the issues that are among us right now. And there certainly are many challenges, but I think it's an opportunity that I'd like to believe that most higher ed institutions have right now, but I think we need to find more innovative models in our education system, and I think that will help move forward. And instead of, business as usual. The other issue too is we need to be careful with, and this has been an ongoing trend, I'm sure many of you have noticed, but you know, the lines between business, industry, and education blurred. And in some ways that's worked well for many institutions, but in a lot of ways it's hurt us. So I think that's something that we have to be very mindful and careful with.
Yes. I mean, I think the reasons why I'm here at NOVA is because I believe in applied and relevant work in education. And I think we have to really look at our global and international models to come back to the U.S. because we're training people around the world that are the top in their field, in their countries. And I really like this model of us going back to the schools. We educated a lot of Miami, Florida students, you know, teachers. So what did we do? We sent them off to the school and we left them alone. So I would like to see some work where we go back to the schools. And we go back to our students once they graduate. So I think we have to become the models again.
Susan?
My comment is probably specifically to Fischler or to NOVA, but could be general too. It's probably paying more attention to adjuncts. I've always had a concern about adjuncts that are they've come on board and we haven't given them that comfort of knowing that they can maintain mastery of work without feeling that they're going to be reprimanded or kicked out or whatever. And I think to some extent that then compromises the integrity of the standard of work that we're doing. I have students all the time who don't feel that they're being challenged or they're being held to the ground. And because some of these adjuncts out there just think, okay, just do the work. You're going to get an A regardless of what you do because, you know, I have to keep my job. And I think if we at the front end ensure that we get quality people in here, people of integrity, and we trust them on that. And it's not hard to find out if they are. And just allow them to be and trust that what they're doing is right and that they're getting the best out of the students without that fear of, you know, being fired or being told you can't do next year because you had to give somebody a C or you had to fail them in a class because they weren't up to standard. And that could only enhance the institution and how we're looked at. So
I think within this discussion here today, we're kind of downplaying the role that economics or the economy has. I know, Ron, you touched upon it mostly or more than anyone here, but economics